Limits are usually seen as a complex topic in most cases. We all have our different limits as people, and usually these limits, and how weak or strong they are usually dependent on quite a number of things, including how a person was raised or where they're from. Family is one of the factors that plays a huge role in how we set our boundaries. And as kids, the way we grow up and the circumstances we're exposed to might let us have poor limits, especially when things were not at its best. In some cases, certain things like trauma or even relationships can play a role in people ending up with poor limits. And with this prompts the question of, how do you know if you have these limit problems or not? Well, in today's video, we've compiled a list of 7 signs that will show you whether you've got poor limits or not. Stay tuned. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel for more amazing content like this. Number 1. You can't make decisions for yourself. If you find that you're unable to make decisions all by yourself, even when they're personal ones that really matter to you, then it's just one of the typical signs of having poor limits. Usually this happens because other people have been involved in your life for far too long, and these people have been the ones making these decisions. To add to that, these people also have not given you the opportunity to learn and grow for yourself, and that's why you'd likely not be able to make decisions on your own. These people could even be your parents, who mean well for you, and it could also be abusers who might have left a huge scar on you. Number 2. Oversharing. Sometimes it's possible to just be all in the moment and you start sharing things to someone over a conversation. It gets so bad that you start sharing too much and you don't even know how to stop. Oversharing could mean different things, and while one would mean that you're sharing because you're under a lot of stress, the other is because you've probably got an ego problem and you just want to make everyone else feel less than you. This second example of oversharing is the damaging one, and it's also a sign that you've got poor limits. When you start talking and talking about yourself and you can't seem to stop until you start dropping things about your personal life, it's a sign that you need help or you just need some practical exercises that will help you learn how to stop oversharing. Number 3. People-pleasing. In this case, these individuals seem to worry about everyone but themselves. They just have this feeling of responsibility to others and are too focused on these other people and how they feel, while also being more concerned about trying to fix them. These kinds of people just want everyone to be happy and will do everything to make people get what they want and be happy too. They don't have this same drive towards themselves, but are more concerned with other people. For them, it's almost like an addiction, and they just want to please people. Usually, these people are known to act out of insecurity and a lack of self-esteem, and they'd eventually experience a loss of sense of self, anger, resentment, and it could even get bigger to the extent they suffer from mental health problems. Number 4. Doing things you don't want to do. From all the things listed so far, you'd see that this is pretty closely related to all of them. Nobody wants to get rejected or abandoned, but in this case, these people take things to another level. To avoid rejection, they jump to do things they'd rather not do, and even though they're not comfortable with what they're doing, they still have to do it because of that fear that people would leave them if they don't conform. A typical example of this is when you keep engaging in sexual activities even though you don't want to, just because you don't want your partner to leave. Number 5. You fail to speak up when you're treated badly. You should never have to keep quiet to please anyone, especially when they treat you badly. If you're fond of doing this, then it's a sign of poor limits. People would just see it as a way to take you for granted, and before you know it, it becomes a thing and they never stop. Speaking up when people treat you badly and letting them know what your opinions are on what they did not only helps you to build your self-esteem, but it also helps in building healthy personal limits. You should never take an insult just to please anyone. Number 6. You make too many grand sacrifices for others at your own expense. This one is quite common, and well, in this case, these individuals do not mind sacrificing their love for someone or even their happiness just to make sure that others are fine. It's similar to being a people pleaser, but in this case, you're deliberate about making really big sacrifices that might even affect you just because you'd rather do something for someone or see the person successful. It gets so bad that you even start to feel guilty when you dedicate time for yourself. Number 7. You're passive-aggressive. When people with poor limits try to show their anger on having to do too much than they bargained for, they let it by being passive-aggressive. Rather than opening up and communicating their feelings and thoughts on what's really going on with them, they'd prefer to stay silent and then get angry for absolutely no reason. For people with low or poor limits, communicating directly is usually a problem, and that's why they would rather take it out on someone or something else. They'd also never ask for help because they wouldn't feel alright with it, and to them, it would feel like they're letting other people down. Poor limits are just as bad as they sound, and even as you might have seen, some of these signs, in fact all, are quite damaging to oneself. In most cases, getting help is the best remedy, and in other cases, simply standing up for yourself, speaking up, and putting yourself at the top of your own priorities would be enough. Do you happen to experience any of these signs? Or do you know someone that does? Which of these signs do you also think is the most disturbing? Let us know in the comment section. If you also enjoyed this video, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, then you should also check out 9 Bad Habits That Ruins Your Confidence.